Alright, so I decided to start a new series, and this game I found under the free section of the Steam network, and it doesn't really look like much of a game, but I figure if you're somebody who enjoys stories, you might enjoy reading this. Now, this is called Depression Quest. It says it's an interactive nonfiction about living with depression. This is by Zoe Quinn, Patrick Lindsay, and Isaac Shankler. The beginning caption says its emotional character is probably mostly indescribable, except as a sort of double bind in which any and all of the alternatives we associate with human agency, sitting or standing, doing or resting, speaking or keeping silent, living or dying, we are not just unpleasant but literally horrible, by David Foster Wallace. So again, just to give you the beginning here, you're starting this with me. I have no idea what to expect or what this is going to be like. But it says Depression Quest is a game that deals with living with depression in a very literal way. This game is not meant to be a fun or lighthearted experience. If you are currently suffering from the illness and are easily triggered, please be aware that this game uses stark depictions of people in very dark places. If you are suicidal, please stop playing this game and visit the suicide prevention hotline to talk to someone. Wow, so that's pretty serious stuff. The goal of this game is twofold. Firstly, we want to illustrate as clearly as possible what depression is like so that it may be better understood by people without depression. Hopefully, this can be something to spread awareness and fight against the social stigma and misunderstandings that depression sufferers face. Secondly, our hope is that in presenting as a real simulation of depression as possible, other sufferers will come to know that they aren't alone and hopefully derive some measure of comfort from that. It goes without saying that because of the very nature of depression, it is experienced differently by every person who suffers from it. We aren't trying to say that this is the best or most accurate representation, merely that this is an amalgamation of the experiences of the developers and several people close to them. Many of the following encounters deal with issues such as therapy, medication, handling a love life, and reaching out to support networks. In reality, less than half of depression sufferers actually seek treatment for reasons such as lack of money, perceived personal failing, or public stigma. These things were included in order to touch upon as broad a range as possible, since all these elements can be very important to sufferers of depression, though they will likely not be experienced by most sufferers. Not be the experiences of most sufferers. It's important to recognize that not everyone with depression is so lucky. Many people with the illness don't have a lot of luxuries that we have in this game. We've written it in this way so that we can focus specifically on the illness, which becomes more and more difficult to deal with as the person who has it is less and less well off. This game uses audio as part of the play experience. We encourage you to put sound on. Definitely we have it on. Alright, I kind of have an idea of the controls. Let's take a quick look. Alright, cool. Let's do it. It is early on a Monday morning. You are a mid-20s human being. You have a significant other named Alex, who you are rather fond of, that you have been seeing exclusively for the past few months. The rest of your social circle consists of a variety of friends and acquaintances, some of whom you met at a day job, which is a little boring but pays the rent. You'd like to be doing more with your life, as would your parents, but you're still in the process of figuring out what that means and how to go about it. You are also dealing with motivation issues that sometimes makes dealing with these things difficult. You feel like that is probably your fault, and on bad days you can feel inwardly angry and down on yourself for being lazy, but you're not quite sure how you can break out of it, or how other people deal with these feelings and seem so very functional. You spend a lot of nights fixating on thinking about this, but never seem to do about it other than sleep. Interesting. So, okay, all of these highlighted things you can click on and read more. Cool. So, you met Alex through a mutual friend a few months back. The two of you hit it off pretty well that first night, and after a series of initially awkward dates, you finally became a couple, much to your surprise and excitement. Alex is 3 months younger than you are and is currently a student with a part-time job and broad social circle. She's also got a wide variety of interests, and oftentimes you worry that you might be too boring for her, but she has been good at trying to reassure you that she's happy with you. Your relationship consists of a lot of nights and watching Netflix when you both got time off work and she doesn't have classes, with the occasional social outing that she tends to have to talk you in. attending. She tries to be understanding when you are in one of your moods, as she puts it, though you are starting to feel like she doesn't understand what it's like for you, and this is a source of tension in your relationship, coupled by your reluctance to want to go to college parties. This feeds your worry of not being exciting enough for them. Well, that's kind of cool. It sounds like, just about anybody in their early years. Your social circle is made up of a few close friends, some of which you've known from high school, and some from jobs that you've worked. You've also made various acquaintances through reluctantly going to social events with Alex, and you keep in touch with a few friend of friends that you occasionally run into. You also have several online friends that you talk to regularly that you feel less guarded with, possibly due to communicating with the safety of being behind the keyboard. You enjoy the low commitment of friendships since they don't expect very much of you other than to listen and share personal thoughts and experiences. Despite the low commitment, you feel fairly connected with these people and tend to be more honest with them than people you interact with in real life. On a day-to-day basis, you feel incredibly nervous trying to make new friends on your own and are very good at talking yourself out of going to unfamiliar places or larger social engagements, regardless of how much you may actually want to attend. Meeting new people stresses you out to a high degree, and this is something you wish you could work past. Oh, that's kind of like me. You admit you have a bad habit of flaking on social engagements, even with longtime friends, and are puzzled as to why some days you just can't force yourself to go see these people that you really do care about. Those that have stuck around long enough to be that close with you understand that this is a thing you sometimes do, and have seemed to more or less accept it even though they chide you for it on occasion. However, you've had friends in the past give up trying to maintain a friendship with you because of this trait, taking your social anxieties as a personal slight, or even getting tired of trying to track you down all the time. I feel incredibly guilty about this, but not quite sure how to change. Yeah, I got depressed. What's your day job? You have a day job which you feel is really nothing special. You started out receiving minimum wage, but have stayed around long enough to be making enough to support yourself. The work is dull and unrewarding, and most days you feel like just about anyone could do it. You have a hard time relating to mostly keep yourself and get the work done while you're there. There are one or two people you chat with, though you wouldn't consider them yourself close with them. A lot of days lately you have a really hard time getting out of bed and forcing yourself to go in. You're starting to wonder how long you can keep this up. You'd really like to find another job in your field of interest, but feel like you are underqualified every time you look at job postings. Sometimes you think about going back to school, but you would be unsure how you would be able to support yourself and wonder if the degree would really help anyway. Your parents. You're one of the few people you know whose parents never got divorced, but you do wonder if they still love each other sometimes. You have an older brother named Malcolm who has moved across the country with his wife to work at a high-paying job. Every major holiday that you see him at, you feel a bit jealous and like the lesser kid despite being genuinely happy to see him. You feel very ashamed of these feelings. Your parents genuinely care about you. This often involves inviting you back to your childhood home for dinner, though your mother thinks you never visit quite enough, but you get the impression they don't fully understand you. They want to see you succeed and don't know why you haven't gone farther in life yet because you are so smart and talented. Anytime you've tried to talk to them about your motivation issues, they tell you that the solution is simply to work harder or want it more. Your father is generally more forgiving of your lack of a career path, while your mother seems to think you are too smart to be in the position you're in. You know they love you and that they're not bad people, but you really feel like a big disappointment sometimes. Yeah, I can relate. Okay, so it's an unseasonably warm Wednesday evening. You've spent the past several hours at work. The past week or so, you've found your job motivation flagging more so than usual. You've been in a fog practically all day today, simply going through the motions without realizing even what you've been doing half the time, and yet time seemed to be moving at half speed. You're so checked out that when your boss approaches you to tell you that it's dead and you can go home early, it barely registers. As you walk home, the streets hiss from the recent rainfall. You know that your significant other will be in classes until late, another couple hours at least. You briefly consider using this serendipitous solitude to catch up on that project that you've been working on haphazardly for the past few months. As soon as you think about the work that awaits you at home, you can feel the panic creeping in from the back of your brain, unbidden. All you can think about is how incredibly far behind you are, and the amount of work seems nothing less than insurmountable. By the time you arrive home and change out of your uncomfortable work clothes, the stress is weighing down on you like a heavyweight wool black blanket. Sorry. Your computer seems to be staring you down from your desk. You want to sit down and work, but the mere thought of trying to work sends your stress levels flying. More than anything, you feel suddenly and absolutely exhausted and feel a strong desire to simply hide in bed. Alright, so cool. This is like, it's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure book in a sense. You know, those books where you would read through the story and you reach a page and it says, okay, to do this, turn to page 72 or whatever. This one kind of says the same thing. So it gives me some suggestions that I can do. I can reluctantly sit at your desk and try to make yourself do something. Or turn on the TV telling yourself you just need a quick half hour to unwind from work. Or crawl into bed. You're so stressed and overwhelmed you couldn't possibly accomplish anything anyway. Unfortunately, it won't let me choose the first decision, which is what I would normally do. Order some food, grab a drink, a beer, and hunker down for a night of work. But it says that I am depressed, interaction is exhausting, and you are becoming more and more withdrawn. You are not currently seeing a therapist. You are not currently taking medication. So, let's see. We're going to reluctantly sit down at my desk. Make a stop at your fridge, turn your favorite playlist on, and sit down to start working. You open the last file you were working on, and as soon as your hands touch the keyboard, your mind goes blank. All of the motivation and ideas you had when you arrived at home vanish in a flash. Your brain seizes up, and you find yourself physically incapable of any sort of productive thought. Take a break to loosen up, popping into your email box, Twitter, and various other internet-based distraction fodder. Frustratingly, this pattern continues throughout the course of the evening. As soon as you try to focus on work, your brain diverts all its energy away from the task at hand. While you keep flipping back to your work, you find the sheer mental effort involved in keeping your brain focused is overwhelming and tiring. A few Twitter arguments, YouTube videos, and sparse amounts of actual work later, your playlist flips back to track 1, and the ice in your glass has all but melted, diluting the last dregs of your Coke you were nursing. You look at the clock and realize that a few hours have passed since you sat down to work, and you've made negligible progress. I can just wake up early tomorrow and catch up, you think to yourself as you climb into bed, even though you know that never actually happens. Let's continue. So, it's a mild Friday afternoon. Alex calls you from one of her classes telling you that there's going to be a really awesome birthday party tonight at her apartment that one of her roommates is throwing. You've hung out with this roommate a few times with Alex, and you get along well enough, but aren't particularly close. You don't have work in the morning, and you have nothing else in particular to do tonight. You are feeling kind of run down, but you have been fatigued most of the time lately. You mentioned that you're feeling ill because you're not sure how else to explain those feelings to someone else, and say that you aren't sure that you can make it tonight. There's a second of silence over your phone, but you can swear you can hear the sound of your partner's face fall. She tries to convince you anyway. You haven't seen her this week, and she sounds pretty insistent that you come over. She even drops a few suggestively worded hints that you can stay over with them tonight after the party. What do you do? So you either agree to go, or you say that you're really just not feeling well and can't make it. So I'm going to agree to go. Cool. So we're at a party now, music's kicking. Alright. You agree to go, even though you're really not feeling social. You know it's important to Alex, and you'd really like to see her. Seeing her does make you feel better sometimes, and you hope that this is the case tonight, even if it does mean dealing with the usual social anxiety. The time to leave rolls around and you grab your overnight bag. Alex's apartment is a short walk away, and there are already people hanging out on the porch. You feel your chest tighten as you approach the building and try to steel your nerves. You quickly find your partner, chatting away with the birthday girl, and Alex immediately lightens up when she sees you. I'm so happy you came. I wasn't sure if you were going to make it. A young man taps her on the shoulder, and she turns back to you to apologize and let you know they have to do something for the party. Alex hands you a beer and plants a kiss on your cheek before going off to deal with whatever came up. As you look around, you don't see anyone else you recognize. So my options are awkwardly stand in the same spot, unsure of what else to do, put my bag in Alex's room and avoid the crowd in there for a while, cling to the back wall, sip my beer, and wait for your girlfriend to return, or proceed to drink in earnest, hoping it makes you less uncomfortable. Now, if I'm going to be honest and do what I would normally do, I'm going to proceed to drink in earnest, hoping it makes me less uncomfortable. After Alex walks away, you're not quite sure what to do with yourself. Scanning the party for familiar faces yields nothing, and you're not sure where your girlfriend or the birthday girl got off to. You look at the beer in your hand. You know you care a lot less about everything in general when tipsy, but you know you should avoid getting drunk and possibly emotional. You quickly down the beer, hoping that it'll loosen you up a little. You down a few more as quickly as your stomach will let you handle the carbonated comfortably, and wait for it to take effect. By the time it does, Alex has already returned and is introducing you to people. However, all that drinking accomplished was making you even more tired and unfocused, and you stick to your girlfriend the rest of the night, staying fairly quiet in group conversations. Later that night, as the two of you are both tipsy and dozing off, Alex cuddles up to you and lightly slurs, "I'm really glad you turned up tonight. To be honest, I really didn't think you'd show. Really cool you did. Really." You know she meant it lovingly, but you're not quite sure how you feel about that statement. It's a little afternoon on a muggy Saturday. Your mother has come over for a surprise visit, claiming loudly that she doesn't see you enough, so she's decided to invite herself over. As you converse, she walks around your place, and you get the distinct impression that you're being inspected. "So what's going on with you lately?" she asks abruptly. Taken somewhat aback by this left fielder, you tell her you're not sure what she means. She repeats the question, saying that you haven't seemed like yourself lately. She gestures to the dirty dishes piled in the sink and notes the fact that you haven't called or visited in a while. Your reticence only seems to spur her on more. She presses you, asking you if you're having problems at work or with Alex, and you're becoming to feel increasingly battered by her sudden, well-meaning but overwhelming imposition. Under her questions, you become increasingly uncomfortable. You want to be able to explain to her how you've been feeling, but the truth is you're not really sure yourself. Nothing horrific has happened at work or with your significant other or friends or anything like that, but all the time you can't deny that lately you've just felt drained and as though you're not really here. You wish you could tell your mother these things, but she hasn't been approachable about negative emotions in the past. She's the kind of person who holds the opinion that the solution to any problem is to simply try harder and maintain a positive attitude, a stance that has reared its head in past conversations when you've begun to explore the subject with her. You know she's unlikely to be understanding, and you feel the energy drain out of you when you imagine what would happen if you managed to blurt out everything you're feeling. Yeah, this game's pretty close to how I feel in most of my life. Alright, so what do? Try to be honest with her anyway. Tell her that everything is fine and thank her for asking, or change the subject. Well, trying to talk never really works, trying to be honest, in my opinion. So we'll do like normal, tell them that everything is fine, and I'm okay, Mom, really, thanks for worrying about me. Your mother looks at you from across the room with furrowed brows, and you wonder if the tone in your voice was the least bit convincing. She slightly opens her mouth as though she was about to say something more, but instead she digs through her purse to find her cell phone, having apparently decided against it. Well, as long as you're okay, honey, her voice trails off. As your mother returns to what amounts to more or less small talk, realize that this part of the conversation has happened a lot recently. Someone will express concern for you or ask if you're okay out of seemingly nowhere. You tend to find that it's simpler to just declare that you're okay than find the right words for complicated, murky feelings. Besides, since none of them are in reaction to a specific event, maybe you really are okay and just complaining about nothing anyway. Sometimes when you insist that you're okay to those who ask, you have to wonder if you're trying to convince them or yourself. Yeah. Game is increasingly more and more like my life. Alright, we'll do a little more, and then I'll stop. We'll finish it Sunday, we'll finish the week, and start off on a new day. So, it is a lazy Sunday morning. You are idly clicking around online as your phone rings. Sam, a coworker of yours that you're friendly with, asks how you are and makes hurried small talk with you. You typically only ever talk to him on the phone when one of you needs a shift covered, so it's slightly awkward. You're waiting in anticipation for him to ask you to come in on short notice when he veers the conversation in a completely different direction. How do you feel about cats? He asked. Mine had kittens a few weeks ago, and I'm having an awfully hard time finding a home for the last one of the litter. You don't have any pets, right? It takes you a moment to process this new information, and you're caught off guard as he begins to earnestly try to sell you on the idea of taking the last kitten off his hands. Not something that you had specifically considered before, and he seems fairly insistent. She's a real sweetheart, really loves people. She's got all her shots already taken care of, and the vet said she's healthy as a horse. I can bring her over by your place tonight if you're interested. You look around your apartment and try to picture a cat in it as he continues to tell you about how cute she is. You tell him that this is all kind of sudden, and that you don't have anything for the kitten set up here. Oh, don't worry about that. I can bring over a litter box and food and all that since you'd really be helping me out of a fix. It's the least I could do. I just don't want to have to put her in a shelter. You can't help but feel like you're being guilt-tripped, but you decide to give it some serious consideration. It does get awfully lonely around your apartment, and it might feel less empty with a cat around. However, since you've been feeling so down, it might not be a good idea to take on the responsibility of a cat, even if they are fairly low maintenance. What do you do? So I can't choose a couple of the options, so we'll go, the ones I can't choose from are become a cat owner, you could use the companionship. Decline, you're not in a good enough place to be taking on more responsibility right now. Or decline, you don't like cats. I like cats, but you know, even in my situation now, in the places, well, I live in a house, but if I was in an apartment, I wouldn't want to be taking on a cat. That's just not, I don't want the responsibility of taking care of a living creature, so we'll decline. I'm sorry, I just can't right now. I hope you find a good home for her. You sit through a few more sales pitch statements that border on guilt trips and rebut them with fabricated excuses about your landlord not allowing pets before your coworker gives up and thanks you anyway. You wish him luck in finding a home for her, and as you hang up, you feel pangs of guilt as you imagine him having to put her in a shelter. You wonder if the chance of the kitten ending up in a shelter was worse than the chance of you being unable to care for an animal, and you feel pretty awful about yourself regardless. Your apartment's emptiness feels a lot more palpable suddenly, and you wonder if you could have pulled it off. You consider getting a pet in the future after more careful consideration and preparation. The next day at work, you run into your coworker and breathe a sigh of relief as he informs you that he was able to find a good home for the kitten. She's probably way better off than she would be with. Alright, so that finishes off this segment of the show, of this game, Depression Quest. So far, my initial thoughts are it's depressing, as expected, but at the same time, it's, you know, I don't know, it's kind of making me feel weird because it's really relating to my life and a lot of the things I feel. So who knows, maybe I'll end up learning a few things. Maybe some of us will end up learning a few things out of this game here. Anyway, I'm not sure when I'll be posting the second video to this one. Just stay tuned for the series. Let me know if you like this one. Again, I feel like this game is more something, since there's no visual stimulation. This is a great game to just kind of have playing in the background while you're doing something, while you're working on a project or doing homework or doing whatever. Just something you can listen to even before bed or whatever. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoy this series. Again, don't forget to let me know what you think down below in the comments. Subscribe if you're not already, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.